Funding for Off 90 is provided in part by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota.
Coming up on Off 90, we'll meet a group of ladies from Lanesboro who sing the praises of rhubarb year-round, the famous Rhubarb Sisters. Austin artist Bruce Loeschen captures the essence of towns with his elaborate portraits of American cities. Rochester theater director Katherine Lear inspires a love for the stage in her students. And after years in a vault, one of the best collections of Native American woven bags in Minnesota is finally on display. It's all just ahead, Off 90. Hi, I'm Barbara Keith, and I'll be joining you as we continue our journey off 90. I work as an artist in Lanesboro, primarily focusing on mosaic work. My pieces can be seen all over the state and the country, including Children's Hospital in Minneapolis and the Mayo Clinic in Rochester. I've probably seen a lot of you around at art exhibits, concerts, or plays. I'm excited to bring you the many arts, culture, and history stories our corner of the world has to offer. First up on today's show, we take our rhubarb seriously in Lanesboro. The city is the official rhubarb capital of Minnesota and hosts a rhubarb festival every summer. And Lanesboro has no bigger champions of the tardy treat than the Rhubarb Sisters. With their tight harmonies and fun musical parodies, the Rhubarb Sisters bring a little taste of home to everyone who listens.
Our little catchphrase is finding happiness in your own backyard, and rhubarb kind of stands for that. Sing high, sing low, gone is the snow. Bring on the rhubarb and pastry dough. Nutmeg a pinch, sugar a cup, strawberries too to sweeten it up. Fruity, juicy, tangy bliss. Who could wish for more than this? Mama's tonic, Dad's delight, I could eat it every night. I live up north. The reason why? I gotta have my rhubarb pie. I only hope that when I die, someone's above baking rhubarb pie. Bring me little rhubarb honey, bring me little rhubarb now, bring me little rhubarb honey, every little once in a while.
People have sometimes come up and said, "So are you really sisters?"
Bring me little rhubarb now.
And they go, "Well, you two look alike," because Peggy and I, we look enough alike that people think we could really be sisters. We say, well, actually, we're not really biological sisters, but we're sisters in our love of rhubarb.
I could make an upside down cake, so now I've come to ask you, honey, why? Oh, honey, why not?
Rhubarb is one of those things that really does equal comfort in your backyard. I think that's just the uniqueness about it, is that it's not commonly found, and yet it touches a lot of memories for people. My name is Julie Keaney, and I am one of the quartet of the Rhubarb Sisters.
Rhubarb pie, it might rain tomorrow, better get some before I die.
As the Rhubarb Sisters, we are the ambassadors for Lanesboro in many ways, not just in rhubarb alone, but we have a festival, an annual rhubarb festival, the first Saturday in June. And that was really our origins.
Get 'em up in the tree.
We began as a trio and would promote the festival and all that's about Lanesboro through rhubarb. And that really kind of has mushroomed and grown into what is now, events that we do throughout the year.
That's what it's all about.
And it's about promoting Lanesboro, rhubarb, and all things that are in your backyard, you could say.
On that rhubarb.
And I always have one question I like to ask people. So how many of you, and there is no right or wrong answer, and you are safe here. But I want to know how many people have rhubarb in their freezer, even as we speak.
Rhubarb in the freezer.
Excellent, excellent.
My name is Peggy Hansen, and I probably have been a Rhubarb sister longer than any of the other three. That's one of my claims to fame. Invariably, when you serve people rhubarb, it's very emotionally powerful. And they would say, oh, I haven't had this since my grandma made it for me, or my mom used to make rhubarb crisp, or it just seemed that more than any other fruit engendered those kinds of responses. Yeah, we're serious about our rhubarb, but we want people to laugh.
I've got sunshine on a cloudy day.
When you start doing this and you start writing parodies, you begin to be able to figure out a way to make any song about rhubarb.
I guess you say, what can make me feel this way?
Rhubarb,
Rhubarb,
talking about rhubarb, rhubarb.
But I've done, let's see, what have I done? What Shall We Do with the Extra Rhubarb? That was just from What Shall You Do with the Drunken Sailor? Softly and Tenderly, and Beautiful Rhubarb, which is from Beautiful Savior. My Girl, I've got sunshine on a cloudy day. What can make me feel this way? Rhubarb.
me feel this way? Rhubarb, rhubarb, rhubarb.
It seems like pretty much every year we get another one or two added in, and that's fun.
My name is Reverend Choi. I'm the youngest, and I do bring our average age down a little bit. A lot of choral experiences can be a lot of work, and this has never seemed like that.
We just have to memorize that.
Yeah, but it's such a good piece.
I mean, we all get along so well that rehearsals are fun, events are fun.
Yeah.
It's just easy.
I would love that.
The chemistry of the group is really excellent, and we all have such different abilities, and yet it all works together really well.
You know, it's really a lot of fun for me, and part of what's so wonderful about it is the group of women.
And lots of candy flowing from my stocking.
They're all such wonderful people, and it's just always been fun working with them.
Never get lost in the snow.
You know, there will be moments when it just comes together, and it's like you're just, it's like you're one voice.
You've seen our get-ups. We look awesome.
Rhubarb pie in the summer, rhubarb pie made by my mother.
The shoes are these fantastic Converse high tops. Each one of us has a different house dress or a farm dress. So they're all vintage, they're all different, they're all cool. And then we each have an apron. They don't match at all.
And see what that does is immediately communicates to people that we are not taking ourselves too terribly seriously.
I think the thing that I like about rhubarb is it can be used in so many different ways.
Come to my kitchen and I'll make you a pie. I have something special I want you to try.
Well, of course, pie.
There's rhubarb chili,
Just good old rhubarb sauce.
rhubarb ketchup,
You know, things like chili, rhubarb with chili.
rhubarb punch,
And in the Middle East, they still will make drinks out of it.
rhubarb popcorn,
And the Scandinavians, of course, they steam it and make it into juice.
rhubarb salsa.
One person melted Velveeta cheese and put in jalapeno peppers and little pieces of rhubarb as a kind of a hot cheese dip, and it was actually pretty good.
Anything you can possibly imagine made out of rhubarb.
You're as happy can be. There's food
Rhubarb means happiness, and happiness means home, and think about old memories that are associated with rhubarb. Yes, rhubarb seems strange, but really comforting at the same time.
There is an undercurrent of seriousness where we talk about home and we talk about making do with what you have. That's a huge Midwestern value. It's like, hey, rhubarb, it's in your backyard. If it isn't, it should be.
You know, finding happiness in what is here without having to go spend money or get new things or go somewhere else. That there's a lot you can find just in your own community, in your own neighborhood. And that's kind of what we've done with the Rhubarb Sisters, is we've just happened upon, in this small community, a bunch of women who happen to have voices that fit those different parts. And we enjoy each other, and we enjoy singing, and we enjoy the music.
Oh no, it's fine. It's fine. Mama's baby loves rhubarb pie.
Well, I hope that they'll decide to plant a rhubarb plant and actually eat rhubarb. I hope they'll think a little bit more about what they do eat, where it comes from, how much effort they put in their food, maybe why it's worth taking time to make something that's homemade, that has love in it. That even if it's a little extra work, it's worth it. I would personally, I would love that. I would love if somebody just, the next time they're thinking about just putting the frozen pizza in the oven, that maybe they might just stop and say, well, maybe I'll cook tonight. That'd make me feel good.
Rhubarb pie. Rhubarb pie.
Can you capture the essence of a town in a single illustration? Austin artist Bruce Loeschen can, with his elaborate portraits of American cities. He masterfully combines landmarks and businesses into a single montage, bringing out the spirit of hundreds of cities in a very unique and intricate way.
My father would have rolled over in his grave if he knew that I was an art major. My name is A. Bruce Loeschen, and I'm an illustrator. My specialty, or my claim to fame, has become these city montages. At first, I just referred to them as vertical vills. A collage is cut and paste, where you're bringing several things into a composition and gluing them together. So if it's all done in ink, it would be a montage. And montage means mono, one medium, and the tage, bringing it together. So you're creating several things into one thing in one medium. I've created more than 300 cities across the country. It starts with a pencil numbered grid to try and feel out the 40-story skyscraper to a garage type building. A statue is composed to a convention center. Then when we think we have that grid worked out, then I evolve a pencil, and then the pencil is laid in for approval. Then I check logos and spellings, and then I do the pen and ink. And when that's proofed, and there's been some embarrassing proofs where I've misspelled a person's name, or I spelled newspaper wrong once, obvious, easy letters. We make posters, and those are distributed. The very first montage I did was created to advertise a show. In '79, I had 12 landmarks in Austin. So I had some made into posters, and during the show I sold out of posters. So I thus was born a unique idea of vertical veil montage. Well, when I was at the Renaissance Festival, it was marketing in shop. People would walk in and want to know why I didn't have their city. It was, you know, I could have had 3,000 cities and I'd still miss one. My best sale was an exchange group from England. They each bought 6 different city posters because they'd never seen anything like it and thought it was a great souvenir of America. So this was probably the most original concept I had and continues to be my offspring to this day. However, they're much more detailed today. Ten years ago, I was approached by Community Creations, and they were trying to sell these aerial maps of towns. And wherever they went in Iowa that I had done a city, they'd point to my montage and say, well, and you can create a work like this, we might consider. So they couldn't sell any place, so they called me and said, would you work for us? And that doubled the profit, but it allowed me to stay home. So they would send me photographs, and then I would plot and do like my jigsaw puzzle and start a layout of each photograph is numbered, so then I'm trying to get a sense of tall buildings. These 3 things are the bridges across the river. This particular one will be Ottumwa, Iowa. With Community Creations, they do the contacts and it sells itself. One city chamber or a person sees Colorado Springs. How did you get that? They get in touch with Community Creations, and I have a website that I list all the cities that I currently have. When they picked me up, I was doing maybe 3 a year, and when I hit 12, 15, 16 a year, then that became their primary business. And last year was a record. I did about 24 cities. The original verbal contract with Community Creations was that half of the material had to be nonprofit or landmarks or character of the city. And that has evolved. In the business world, if they didn't buy an ad space, then it's not there. If I've never been to the town, I don't know what they're missing. And that becomes one of those great arguments of commercial art versus fine art. I really thought that I was creating fine art. It was my impression of the city, the portrait that I saw as an artist coming into it. To do Austin without the tallest church spire would not be my sense of a true portrait. So, yeah, in some ways I thought that I prostituted myself for the dollar, but it's fun to do, and I couldn't make the kind of hourly wage that I do on this anywhere in Austin. And yet, you know, certain commercial work is recognized later as being fine art. And so there's Pan, added him to the picture so it could go into another art show. I'm hoping to involve and find something else, a different style. I don't know whether it's expressionism or cartooning I've looked at to translate this kind of pen and ink drawing, this kind of tight 19th century illustrative style into something more contemporary. Haven't found that yet. I was teased all the time of being the Waldo artist. So I had an old Volkswagen Beetle when I was starting, and curiously I don't anymore, but the Beetle still goes in every print. Somewhere hiding in the print so that my regular customers or people that's aware of it will look for that. A little town, it was Slater, Iowa had their centennial, and their committee was looking for souvenirs. So they dug in their pockets and paid the whole fee up front, and we're going to sell these posters. And there was 2 businesses in Slater, so what do you put in it? So town of 600 people. So we went down the block and either put the house or the person in that moment of time, and made a big montage of it. Everybody and their cousin had to have that montage of Slater, so that was fun. And probably the truest essence of what I was trying to do as a portrait. Well, you know, the company thinks this is going on forever. They hope I live forever. It's the golden goose, I think, but there are moods that there may be a day I'm saying I'm going to punch my time card in and go down and draw, and the hand just isn't doing what the brain tells it to do. So the beauty is I can walk away from it and do something else, and keep it fresh.
Katherine Lear got the nickname Poppy from her own work on stage, but now that's the name she's affectionately known by in her work with theater students in Rochester. Some say it takes a special gift to teach middle school students to sing, dance, and act, but that's what Poppy says she was born to do.
Okay, lights up, curtain opens. I'm the play director of the middle schools in Rochester. Fast! Open the curtain fast, please. I've done a high school here and there, but mainly I'm directing with the middle school age kids. Everybody's getting ready for their entrance. You know what? For Farmer and the Cowman. I started when I lived in LA, and I did several plays for about a year, and then I moved here. I got my teaching degree, and then I started teaching. Ready? Lights up! I was a painfully shy teenager, and I didn't start doing theater until I was in high school.
The farmer and the cowman should be friends. Oh, the farmer and the cowman should be friends.
And it was like a, I don't know how to explain it other than I wanted to do more and more and more.
Territory folks should stick together. Territory folks should all be pals.
It became a passion to be involved with theater, even if it was just in the chorus. It was just so fun. It was such an amazing experience.
Cowboys dance to the farmers' daughters, farmers dance to the ranchers' girls.
I feel blessed. I feel so blessed to be able to work with the kids that I work with. It's a fabulous feeling to see them go from where they start out and then grow. I learn something all the time. I learn, because all kids are different, all actors are different, forever until I drop dead on stage. I think that would be the perfect thing. My last breath.
Before we leave you this week, we have a treat for you. Kept safe for decades in a vault, one of the best collections of Native American woven bags in Minnesota is finally available for the public to enjoy at the Winona County Historical Society. The collection of 35 bags exemplify usable and beautiful art. See you next time, Off 90.
Most Native American tribes do not have a word for art. They're a beautiful work of art, but to them, they were actually used. The bags were made by Native Americans, probably from the Great Lakes tribes, which would include Chippewa, Ojibwe, and Sauk and Fox. These bags are probably from the late 19th, early 20th century, just because of their design. They're a little bit more abstract than the earlier bags that depict literal figures like the Thunderbird and other legends that the Native Americans had. They have more diagonal designs, different geometric shapes and patterns, and zigzag lines that represent kind of the hidden meanings of these earlier figures. These bags are created by the women of the tribes, and of course the more elaborate the bag, the higher status they had. They took a lot of pride in the things that they made, even though they were useful. So the more elaborate patterns that you see, probably the higher the status that woman had. Most of these bags were made by a technique called twining, which is kind of a simple way to weave, and it's a way that you can twist the fibers to get all these different patterns and colors to show. And it was also easy to do because you didn't have to have an elaborate, huge loom with all the different components. This was something that they could set up at their campsite with the materials that they had around them. The Native Americans would actually just stick 2 sticks into the ground, and then they would string a rope or another stick across the top, and then weave from the top to the bottom, kind of back and forth or in a spiral, and use their fingers as the mechanisms to weave these beautiful patterns. These 2 bags here are made of more natural fibers, so items that the Native Americans would have found in their surroundings in the woods and nature. This one we believe is a cedar bark and a basswood. And so they have some natural dyes that were made by either roots or berries and that sort of thing. So they still incorporated some colors as much as they could in these natural materials. Within this system of interrelatedness, and the spiritual world and the natural world were seen as one, and so everything that they made and used they considered, sacred.
Funding for Off 90 is provided in part by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota.